go in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to Cultivated Live for Wednesday, October, 29th. Oh, yes. No. That sounds late in the year, doesn't it, Jerome? I just took a deep breath. I was like, October 29th?
I know. Hitting the end of the year very quickly.
I know. It's like it's speeding up upon us. I am Jay Rosenthal. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Cultivated Media. You are Jerome Hoyte from White Ash Group. Thanks for being here today.
No, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here and be part of your adventure.
Well, I love this adventure. And for those that read our newsletter, which is about, 7,000+ people every single day, we announced earlier in the fall, let's say, I don't even know the date we did it, but what we're calling Cultivated 3030s. Cultivated 3030s is powered by the White Ash Group. And we are seeking people in their 30s who are leading the industry forward in any interesting, compelling, innovative ways. And we're so happy to have White Ash Group on as a partner. Let me just ask, and then we'll talk about White Ash Group. Like, when I came to you guys and said, let's do this, you were like, yeah, like, I don't even think I finished my first sentence, but talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you. Well, again, thanks for having us here. When you approached us and talked about the project that you're working on, we were very excited, something we definitely wanted to be a part of. I think it's easy to get caught up in the everyday ongoings and forget about the people behind the industry or in the industry. I guess both things are true, but more importantly, the future generation. I think, we're a fairly new industry and there's a lot of good up and coming talent that, I always say we see this from a people's lens. So we see a lot of those people around conferences, facilities, walking the tours, speaking to people. There's a lot of good work going on behind the scenes from the younger generation. And maybe call me a sports fan. I know you've got your hat on today, which is a good analogy, but teams are built on the youth, especially in the English football. It's like, if you've got a good youth team, then the future's set. And I think there's a lot of bright talent that needs to be highlighted in this industry too.
Well, we look forward to doing that. And we've got, I think it's over 90 at this point, people who have either put their names in, but most have been sort of suggested or nominated by their peers, which I think is a really strong signal as well. And there's some folks on the list I didn't know they were in their 30s, which strikes the shit out of me, because I'm like, oh no, like I know them and they're leading in really interesting and innovative ways, which is good to be acknowledged. And so we will get to that at the end of November. We'll be making announcements on who's there, but give us a little bit of background about White Ash Group. You said you're in the people business. Give us a little bit of background about White Ash Group for those that may not know, although we featured you guys for some time. Give us a bit of background about you, the team, and sort of the position you have in the sector right now.
Yeah, no. So White Ash Group I'm obviously, as you mentioned, Jerome, I'm the co-founder of White Ash Group. We're a global recruitment firm that focus exclusively on the cannabis industry. We place candidates, what we call it is roots to seed to sale. Really how, I won't bore you with the life story. I know we've only got a limited time and we don't want to send our viewers to sleep, but, we come from a rich history of recruitment first. I've worked internationally, accent's a bit of a giveaway. Worked in England for an international company, for large telco companies. We did when they're rolling out 3G. Damn, I'm showing my age there now as well, aren't I? Throwing that 3G across Asia, Europe, the US. And then this was just an industry for myself and my business partner, Graydon, that he also comes from recruitment as well. And we're like, hey, there's going to be a need for people in this. Businesses are built on people, and having the right people in place is important. We know the methodologies tried and tested from the top Fortune 500 companies to the small mom and pop shops to what can be successful. So we brought those systems and processes into the cannabis space, and it's definitely been a journey. There's still been some learning curves that we had to navigate at the beginning, but the processes have remained, and it's definitely been an exciting time.
And you're not new to the cannabis industry. Obviously, you've been in for some time and seen rapid growth, first on the Canadian side, then on the US side, and now on the European side. And it does seem to go through these cycles. While it's always exciting, it does go through these cycles. And I wonder, like, I don't even know what you can say. Like, where are we in these cycles? What are you seeing most recently? I know you just announced you're opening up a European office. Like, talk a little bit about that, because it does seem like when we started knowing each other, there was like this huge Canadian ramp up, which was exciting, but the US sort of followed and is still on a growth phase. But it does seem like there's always these phases that each market goes through. Like, where are we and how do you think about them all? Because there's still hiring and people on the Canadian side, on the US side, on the European side. It's just growing exponentially, it seems like.
Yeah, 100%. And where do I start, Jay? How long have you got again? I think, it's definitely changed. We've been doing it for specifically for 8 years now. So, there was the gold rush at the beginning, and then there's been a lot of restructuring, M&As, a lot of consolidation. And then you kind of look at it through a lens of individual countries. And then you have to look at, especially when you get to the US, it's individual states as well. So we're seeing a lot of consolidation. In hiring hasn't particularly stopped or slowed down. There's just been a lot of consolidation. I think people are being a bit more strategic than just hiring at free will now. So it's like, what roles are, drive the bottom line, or what's a more strategic move? So for example, in Canada, we're seeing a lot more on the operations, and the buzzword now is international, like going to Berlin. It's just like you've gone to another place in Canada again. There's so many Canadians there. And then in the US, again, big word, consolidations is another big thing there. But there are newer markets coming online now, like Ohio and New York and Illinois that are kind of driving the market. And then you go across to Europe. So obviously, I think 2025 has been an exciting year for Europe in general. Germany still anchors the market. The medical market in the UK is quietly booming. Portugal still remains to be a large export hub. Poland's busy. We've had Switzerland come online. And then you start getting even bigger, like we've seen the medical market grow in Australia. And Thailand, I know there's been a few changes in the regulations over time, but even that's, they're tightening up on those regulations. It's given it a bit more of a medical approach there. So, it's a big world out there, and the industry's more in its infancy. That there's still a lot of room for growth, is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I want to go back to sort of the people in their 30s, which is really in many respects sort of the heart and soul of a workforce of a growing or burgeoning industry. Are you seeing? I mean, I think probably 8 years ago was there wasn't a ton of people with deep cannabis experience, so there was a bit of that. But now there are people who have made cannabis their career, and how valuable is the sort of people who've spent the last 8 years sort of working in cannabis versus the last 8 years maybe working in CPG or pharma or in other sort of verticals? Are we now seeing sort of a blending of the two, where it's teams are being built just with best in class talent around brands, around compliance, around international? Is it a bit of that background is important, but also sort of real world experience in other sectors, or is it sort of a blend of both right now?
Yeah, okay, good question. I definitely see a blend of both, and it again feels like I'm just beating around the bush with the answer here, but it's a lot of it can be the type of role as well. But there definitely is, with the younger generation in this industry, as we know, 1 year or 2 years in this industry is like 5 or 10 in any other, because the goalpost is forever moving. We're looking for new hurdles, new things are coming online. And then obviously as an industry, there's multiple verticals as well. So, there is a big need for talent within the industry, but at the same time, as it grows, we still need to bring in the advice and the experience from other industries. Companies can be few and far between in terms of location as well. So sometimes that can be a hurdle of hiring someone directly from cannabis. So we're seeing a blend of it all. In Europe, for example, there is, a lot of eyes on the Canadian market. We've kind of, worn the T-shirts, got the battle scars. It's a little bit of a flight risk. We've seen what's worked and what hasn't worked. But again, it's then just getting people into the countries. But there's a big blend. A big need for that. Getting ahead of myself here, sorry. So yeah, really, that doesn't really directly answer your question, I know, but again, it kind of depends on the role. So we kind of see if you're in the medical side, getting people from the pharma is a big need, rather than getting people from the recreational, for example. So, but if you're, we always tier we look at it, and the rule of thumb is if you're in the industry, want to stay in the industry, got that 5+ years experience, then you're pretty much a grade A candidate.
Right. No, it is interesting to sort of see as Canada reaches sort of one level, different markets in the US reach sort of the hype stage, right? And then the hype stage goes to sort of a steady state phase, goes to okay, now there's a European market, and the European market maybe looks more like the Canadian market because of the international compliance, all those things. I wonder if 8 years ago, if we sat down and said, what do we think 8 years hence will look like? I don't think we would have known.
No. Definitely not. And even when I go to even this sounds like a silly answer, but even when I go to Europe, I'm a bit more cautious of even little things like what I wear. When I first went to a meeting here with a suit on, everyone was like, "Who's the new guy?" And then when I go back to England with my shorts and my T-shirt, they're like, "Oh, who's this guy?" it's very much more medical focus. So sometimes you have to blend to your audience, and I don't mean that in a look way by any stretch of imaginations. I mean that more in the type of person and the individual that they're trying to hire. Right now, if you're trying to sell to doctors in the UK, it's a little bit different than selling to the retail guy on Queen West, for example. I'm not cool enough for the Queen West audience. Is why I'm
neither am I. I live within. I'm proximal, but definitely can't fit in. That's why I had to grow a beard, so like some credibility in the realm. Jerome, I appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate the partnership with White Ash Group. We're going to have you back as we sort of get into this with the applicants and the nominees for the 3030s powered by White Ash Group. We look forward to sort of this partnership, and then maybe even connecting in person as we get to Las Vegas at the in December. But Jerome, thanks for joining us here today. Thank you again for the partnership. We'll connect with you and again, team, soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Jay. It's always a pleasure.
You got it. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow.
Take care.